My husband secretly installed an app at midnight to access my bank details. He used this information to take $400,000 and went on a trip. When he returned, he mocked me, saying, "Thanks to your mobile, I really enjoyed spending your $400,000. I couldn't hold back my laughter because the bank data accessed was actually. The buzzing of my phone woke me up at 2:45 a.m. It wasn't the usual sound of a text or call. This was different, like a security alert. Half asleep, I almost ignored it, but something made me take a closer look. The notification was from an app one didn't even recognize, Secure Track. It read, "Alert, location data accessed. My name is Sabrina," and that message was the beginning of the end of my so-called normal life. I sat up slowly, careful not to disturb Paul. He was fast asleep beside me, his back turned, just like every night lately. The blue light from my phone lit up the room, making strange shapes dance on the walls as I tried to figure out what this mysterious app was. It wasn't on my home screen, but after digging through my settings, I found it Secure Track, running silently in the background. How long had it been there? "What the hell's?" I whispered, my hands shaking as I opened it. A map popped up, showing everywhere I'd been that week. My daily drive to the school where I teach, Sunday coffee with Caitlin, even the quick stop I'd made at the jewelry store to buy Paul's anniversary gift. The room suddenly felt too hot, too small. I got out of bed as quietly as I could and made my way down the hall to the kitchen. I passed Alyssa's room on the way. My 15-year-old daughter was fast asleep, completely unaware that her mom's life was unraveling. Under the harsh light of the kitchen, I went deeper into the app. It wasn't just tracking where I went. It had everything. My texts, my call history, even my internet searches. Every new discovery felt like a punch to the stomach. Who could have done this? Why? My hand shook as I reached for a glass of water. The house was silent except for the low of the refrigerator. The quiet made everything feel even stranger. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. Another alert. Secure Track. Audio recording in progress. My heart froze. Audio recording? I scrambled through the app until I found a folder labeled Recordings. The newest file was from 3 days ago. I tapped it, and my own voice played through the speaker, soft and distant. "I don't know, Caitlin," I heard myself say during our coffee chat. "Paul's been acting different lately. Working late, always on his phone." My blood turned cold. I quickly stopped the recording, my stomach twisting in knots. Someone had been listening to my private conversations. Someone had been tracking everywhere I went. For an app like this to be installed, someone would have needed physical access to my phone. The sound of footsteps upstairs made me freeze. They were heading toward the bedrooms. A moment later, I realized it was just Paul, probably getting up to use the bathroom like he did most nights. But for the first time in 16 years of marriage, the sound of his footsteps made my skin crawl. I quickly shut the app and deleted the alerts, my instincts taking over. Don't react. Don't give yourself away. Gather proof. Make a plan. My students would never believe their calm Shakespeare-quoting English teacher could think so strategically. When I got back in bed, I lay there, wide awake, listening to Paul's steady breathing. My thoughts were spinning. The man I trusted for so long, the father of my child, my partner, was hiding something. But why would he need to track me like this? Or was this part of something even bigger? One thing was clear, I couldn't confront him. Not yet. Not until I figured out what I was dealing with. Tomorrow, I'd start digging. Tomorrow, I'd begin to untangle whatever secret was wrapped around my life. As I finally started to drift off, my phone buzzed again. Half asleep, I nearly ignored it, but then I saw it, a text from an unknown number. "Be careful what you look for, Sabrina. Some truths are better left buried." Morning came too soon, and I hadn't slept much. My mind was still spinning from everything I'd uncovered, but I forced myself to act normal, moving through the morning routine, the kitchen filled with the smell of coffee and toast as I packed Alyssa's lunch, doing my best to keep my hands steady. Paul came downstairs in his sharp blue suit, the one he always wore for big client meetings. He barely looked at me as he filled his travel mug with coffee. "Big meeting today?" I asked, keeping my voice casual while watching his face for any signs of guilt. "Yeah," he said, not meeting my eyes. "Probably won't be home for dinner." His focus stayed on the coffee, stirring it with robotic precision. "The Morrison account needs extra attention," he added. The Morrison account. The same excuse he'd used 4 times in the past 3 weeks. My chest tightened. I wanted to scream to demand answers about the app and the tracking. But instead, I bit my tongue, nodded, and turned back to making Alyssa's sandwich. "Mom, have you seen my USB drive?" Alyssa called as she walked into the kitchen, her dark hair still damp from her shower, the blue one with all my coding projects on it. "Check the living room," I said, grateful for the distraction. "I said you were working there last night." Alyssa stopped, her eyes flicking between Paul and me. She was always sharp, too smart for her own good sometimes. Her gaze narrowed as she noticed the space between us, the way we avoided touching when Paul brushed past me to grab his briefcase. "Dad," she said suddenly, "you promised to help me with my computer science project this weekend. Remember? The one about digital privacy and security." I froze, nearly dropping the knife in my hand. Paul's shoulder stiffened. "Sorry, sweetheart," he said, his voice strained. "Something came up at work. Maybe next weekend." Alyssa's face fell, but there was something else in her expression. Suspicion. "Right. Work again," she said softly. Paul leaned down, kissed her on the forehead, and headed for the door. "Love you both," he called out, but the words felt empty, like they were rehearsed. After he left, Alyssa turned to me. "Mom, what's going on? What do you mean?" I asked, busying myself with the breakfast dishes. "Dad's been acting weird, and you," she hesitated. "You look like you haven't slept. Plus, you're washing that same plate for the third time." I set the plate down, forcing a smile. "It's just work stress, honey. You know how it gets during final season." "Mom," Alyssa said, crossing her arms. "I'm 15, not 4. I know something's wrong. I heard you up last night." Before I could come up with a reply, my phone buzzed. Another secure track alert. I snatched it up before Alyssa could see the screen, but not before catching the message. Audio recording saved. "Kitchen, 6:30 a.m. I need to get to school early," I said quickly, grabbing my purse. "Teacher's meeting. Will you be okay taking the bus?" Alyssa's face shut down. "Sure, whatever." The drive to school was a blur. Once I parked, I pulled out my phone and searched for Caitlin's number. She'd been my friend since college and worked in IT security. If anyone could help me figure this out, it was her. But just as I was about to call, another text came through from the same unknown number. "Careful who you trust, Sabrina. Caitlin might not be the friend you think she is." My blood ran cold. How did they know I was about to call Caitlin? Unless, I glanced around the parking lot, suddenly feeling exposed. The spyware must have access to my phone's camera too. A knock on my window made me jump. It was just Etienne from the English department, looking concerned. "You okay, Sabrina? The meeting's about to start." "Yeah, coming," I said, grabbing my bag. As I walked toward the building, my mind raced. I couldn't trust my phone. I couldn't trust my husband. Maybe I couldn't even trust Caitlin. And worst of all, I was starting to see cracks in my relationship with Alyssa, the one person I was trying so hard to protect from all of this. I walked into the school building, and my phone buzzed again. The message read, "Smart girl, your daughter. Maybe she should look into that computer science project more carefully." Lots of interesting things to learn about digital privacy these days. This wasn't just a warning anymore, it was a direct threat, and now they were pulling Alyssa into it. That was my breaking point. Tony Stark's office was tucked between a laundromat and Italian takeout place. The private investigator looked as worn as his leather chair. He flipped through the screenshots I'd taken of the spyware app. "Secure Track Pro," he said, sliding his glasses off. "High-end software. You can't just grab this off the regular market. Can you trace it?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "Already did. It was purchased 5 weeks ago through a shell company. But here's where it gets interesting." He turned his computer screen toward me. "The buyer used your home address for billing." My stomach sank. "Paul, that's not all," Tony continued, clicking through more files. "The shell company's been busy. They've been making regular payments to a rental property in Oakwood Heights. Fancy place. Too pricey for one person. Unless someone else is helping with the rent," I said, the words bitter in my mouth. Bingo. He pulled up a photo on the screen. My heart dropped. It showed Paul walking out of the building with a woman I didn't recognize. She was younger than me, effortlessly beautiful, the kind of person who didn't have to try. His hand rested on the small of her back in a way that was far too familiar. "Erica Carr," Tony said. "She works at Paul's firm. Junior partner, rising star, fast track for promotion." My phone buzzed again with another secure track alert, but I ignored it. I focused on the dates under the photos. "These are from the nights he said he was working late on the Morrison account," I muttered. Tony hesitated, then said, "There's more. The spyware? It wasn't his idea." I looked up startled. "From the email trail I found," he explained, "Erica pushed for it. She's been encouraging him to make a clean break." "A clean break?" I asked, my voice shaky. "From you and Alyssa." He slid a folder across the desk. "These are all the files I pulled, including," he tapped one document, "a consultation with a divorce attorney. Last week, the room felt too bright. The smell of Italian food wafting through the wall made me feel sick. Why the spyware then if he's planning to leave?" I asked. "Insurance, maybe. Or control. People do strange things when they're living double lives." My phone buzzed again. This time, I looked at the screen. "Having fun with Tony? Wonder what Paul would think about his wife meeting strange men in secret." I felt the blood drain from my face. I showed Tony the message. His face darkened. "They're watching you," he said quietly. "Probably through your phone's camera." He grabbed a sticky note and scribbled down a number. "Here, this is a burner phone. Use it to contact me from now on. And, Sabrina," he looked at me, his tone serious, "be careful. People who use surveillance like this, they're not just messing around." As I walked to my car, another text popped up. "TikTok, Sabrina. How long before Alyssa finds out her mother is sneaking around too?" I sat in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. They were trying to mess with my head, to make me doubt myself, to make me feel guilty for uncovering their lies. My phone rang. It was Paul. "Hey," he said, his tone casual and smooth, like nothing was wrong. "Just checking if you can pick up Alyssa today. My meeting's running late." Meeting. Right. I wondered if Erica was with him at that very moment, maybe running her fingers through his hair the way I used to. "Actually," I said, my voice steady, "I have a meeting too. With the Morrison account." The silence on his end was deafening. "The Morrison accounts?" His voice cracked slightly. "Yeah," I said, starting my car. "Funny thing about that account, Paul. They closed their business 5 months ago." I didn't wait for his reply. "But hey, enjoy your meeting. Say hi to Erica for me." I hung up before he could respond, my heart pounding. Through the windshield, I caught a glimpse of my reflection. I looked pale, scared, but there was something else too. Something harder, something determined. My phone lit up with his number again. I declined the call and opened the Secure Track app. If they wanted to watch me, fine. Let them see what happens when they push someone too far. I'd planned to go to Erica's apartment, but instead, I found myself in my classroom during lunch. I stared at a stack of unsigned permission slips for tomorrow's field trip, lost in thought. Alyssa appeared in the doorway. "You missed breakfast again," she said, dropping her backpack by my desk. "And, Dad didn't come home last night." I forced a smile. He texted, "Late meeting." "Stop." Alyssa's voice cracked. "Just stop lying to me." The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as we locked eyes. Her face, once soft and childlike, now carried sharper edges. Too knowing. Too grown for her age. "I found something on Dad's laptop," she said, pulling out her phone. "Remember when he asked me to help organize his work files last weekend?" My stomach tightened. "Alyssa, there were emails," she interrupted. "A lot of them. To someone named Erica." She placed her phone on my desk, the screen facing up. "He's planning to leave us, isn't he?" Before I could answer, a student appeared at the door. "Mrs. Matthew, Principal Owen needs to see you. He says it's urgent." I found Paul waiting in the principal's office, sitting next to Mr. Owen. Paul wore his courtroom smile, the one he used when he was about to tear someone's reputation apart on the stand. "Sabrina," Owen began, shifting uncomfortably, "serious allegations have been made. There's a claim about inappropriate contact with a private investigator during school hours and concerns about your emotional stability affecting your teaching." The trap was closing. Paul had gotten ahead of me, spinning the story to suit him. Of course, he had. He was a lawyer. Manipulating narratives was his specialty. "I'm worried about you, honey," Paul said, his voice dripping with fake concern. "The paranoia, the accusations, the secret meetings. This isn't like you. Let me help you." Help? Like he'd helped by planning spyware on my phone? Like he'd helped by planning a divorce behind my back while pretending to be the perfect husband? "Mr. Matthew has suggested you take a leave of absence," Owen added. To get things sorted out, my phone buzzed. Another Secure Track alert. Probably recording every word of this conversation. They were building their case, trying to make me look paranoid. Unfit to teach, unfit to parent. "I have proof," I said quietly, my voice steady. Paul's smile faltered for just a moment. "Proof of everything," I continued. "The spyware you and Erica installed on my phone, the shell company, the apartment in Oakwood Heights." I turned to Owen. "I also have recordings of every conversation from the past 5 weeks. Yes, including conversations with students and parents. I wonder how the school board would feel about that kind of privacy violation." Owen's face went pale. "Privacy violation?" he stammered. "I'll email you the evidence," I said, standing up. "But right now, I need to speak to my daughter." "She found her emails, Paul. The ones to Erica about leaving us." Paul's confident mask cracked. "Alyssa found them?" "Yes," I said sharply. "So, while you're here trying to ruin my career to cover your tracks, our daughter is sitting in my classroom, trying to figure out why her father is abandoning her." I walked out, leaving them stunned and scrambling for words. In the hallway, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Secure Track. It was a text from Tony. "Got something big. Erica's not who she claims to be. Meet ASAP." Back in my classroom, Alyssa was still there, her laptop open, lines of code scrolling across the screen. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice shaky. "Fighting back," she said, not looking up. "Did you know most spyware has backdoors that can be hacked? Dad really should have done better research before buying it." I watched her fingers fly across the keyboard, her face focused and determined. In that moment, she looked so much like me. Not the scared, gaslit version I'd been lately, but the strong, fearless version I used to be. The version I needed to find again. "Mom," Alyssa said, finally looking up. "I found something else in the app's code," Alyssa said, her voice low. "Something bad. Really bad. I don't think this is just about Dad's affair anymore." My phone buzzed. This time, it wasn't the unknown number. It was from Erica herself. "We need to talk. Your husband isn't the only one being blackmailed. Meet me tonight." Alyssa's face was lit by the blue glow of her laptop as we sat in Tony Stark's dimly lit office. "It's not just spyware," she explained, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "It's part of something bigger. Look at these network connections." Tony leaned closer, squinting at the code. "These IP addresses, they're routing through law firms across the state." "Dodd's firm isn't the only one involved," I said, Erica's message about blackmail flashing through my mind. "How many, Alyssa?" 17 so far," she said. "They're all using the same spyware, all tied to one central server." Her fingers kept moving as she added, "And get this, they're all handling high-profile divorce cases." Tony let out a low whistle. "Surveillance footage, private conversations, location data, that's a goldmine for divorce settlements." My phone buzzed again. Another message for America. "They're watching. Don't trust Paul. Meet me at Millvale Riverfront Park in 45 minutes. "It's a trap," Tony said, reading the message over my shoulder. "Probably," I replied, grabbing my coat. "But she's scared," I added. "You didn't hear her voice in the recordings Alyssa found." "Wait." Alyssa turned her laptop toward me. "Look at this email thread. Erica tried to back out 4 weeks ago. The next day, someone sent her this." The attachment showed Erica leaving a building I recognized immediately, a women's shelter where I volunteered. She was helping a young woman inside, both of them glancing nervously over their shoulders. "Her sister," Tony said quietly. "She's been hiding from an abusive ex for 5 months. Erica's been helping her stay off the grid." My stomach churned as the pieces fell into place. "They're using her sister to control her." "Mom," Alyssa said, her voice trembling, "there's something else. Remember that college fund Dad started for me last month?" My chest tightened. "What about it?" "The money, it's not mine. It's being funneled through shell companies. The same ones paying for the spyware." She hesitated, her voice heavy with disbelief. "Dad's helping them launder money." The room spun as the weight of it all crashed down on me. Paul wasn't just having an affair or spying on me. He was part of something far darker, something that could ruin not just our marriage but his career, his freedom, and everything we had built. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a video. It showed Alyssa walking home from school yesterday. Beneath, it was a single line. "Back off or she's next. They're bluffing." Tony started, but I was already on my feet, heading for the door. "Mom, stop," Alyssa called after me. "We need a plan." "I have one," I said, turning back to see my daughter's worried face. She looked so much older than her 15 years. "I'm ending this. Tonight." "Not alone." "You're not," Alyssa shot back, grabbing her laptop. "I can hack their network, shut down the spyware remotely, give you a window." "Absolutely not," I said firmly. "It's too dangerous." "More dangerous than you meeting Erica alone?" she challenged, her chin raised defiantly. "They're already threatening me. At least let me fight back." Tony cleared his throat. "The kid's got a point. You need backup. I've got a friend in the FBI cybercrime division. One call." "No." I shook my head, thinking about Erica's sister and all the others being blackmailed. "Not yet. If we scare them off too soon, people could get hurt. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with first." My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a photo of Paul entering a building I didn't recognize, followed by a message. "TikTok. Your husband's about to make a deal. A deal that can't be undone. Choose wisely." I looked at Alyssa, my brave, brilliant daughter who refused to be a victim, and at Tony, who had become more than just an investigator. They were my allies in this chaos. "Okay," I said at last. "Here's what we're going to do. Alyssa, you and Tony will work on accessing their network, but you stay here where it's safe. I'll meet Erica and find out what she knows." "And then," Tony asked, I thought of the lies, the manipulation, the threats against my daughter. My voice was steady as I replied, "And then we burn it all down. Every last bit of it." As I left the office, I heard Alyssa's fingers flying across her keyboard. I couldn't help but smile grimly. They thought they could scare a mother by threatening her child. They were about to learn how dangerous that mistake would be. Millvale Riverfront Park was eerily quiet when I arrived. Erica sat alone on a bench near the water. She looked nothing like the confident woman in Tony's photos. She seemed smaller, fragile. "They're watching," she said without looking up. "But Alyssa's program worked. We have about 10 minutes before the spyware kicks back online." I sat beside her, keeping a safe distance. "Tell me about my husband's deal." "It's not just Paul," she said, her hands trembling as she handed me a USB drive. "The firm's been running this for years. They install spyware on their own clients' devices, collect dirt on both sides during divorces, and use it to manipulate settlements. The money laundering? That's just extra profit." My phone buzzed. A text from Alyssa. "Mom, something's wrong. Dad's not at the office." The message cut off. Behind me, a voice I knew all too well said, "Going somewhere, Sabrina? I really wish you'd stayed out of this, Sabrina." Paul stepped out of the shadows, and he wasn't alone. 3 men in suits flanked him, their faces cold and emotionless. "The thing is," Paul continued, moving closer, "you were never supposed to find the spyware. That was Erica's mistake." He shot her a sharp, disappointed look. "She got sloppy." "Like you got sloppy with the college fund?" I said, stepping in front of Erica. "Money laundering through our daughter's account? That's low. Even for you. It's called protecting our future," he replied, his smile empty. "Everything I've done was for us. The firm's offering me partner, Sabrina. Real power. All I had to do was prove my loyalty." "By spying on your own families?" I demanded. "By showing I know how to play the game." He gestured to the men beside him. "Now, we can handle this quietly. The firm is willing to be generous. A clean divorce, full custody of Alyssa, a comfortable settlement. All you have to do is walk away." My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Tony. "FBI on the way. Stall him." "And if I don't walk away?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Paul's expression turned cold. "Then things get complicated for everyone." He held up his phone, showing a live feed of the women's shelter where Erica's sister was staying. "And maybe that bright future Alyssa has in computer science disappears too. It would be a shame if she got caught hacking corporate servers." "You'd threaten your own daughters?" I asked, my voice shaking. The words tasted bitter. "I'm protecting her," Paul said, stepping closer. His tone softened, almost pleading. "Teaching her how the world really works. Come on, Sabrina. Take the deal."